are going live. Hi, everybody. Here we are. It is session 6. It's been 6 weeks since we've been together. And wow, I don't know if it's just me or I just blinked and 6 weeks went by. Um, it's a different world than it was 6 weeks ago. Um, some of the things we've done is we've done some great reorienting. So while we're getting started and getting ready, and for those of you who are watching the replay, I want to welcome you first. Chuck Beatty, there you are with today's resources. Because, of course, there's always a handout because I have come totally out of the closet as being an inveterate trainer. My brain just works that way. So it's been a great delight for me to spend these last 6 weeks with you and share some of the simple shifts that actually help me run my life in a very successful way. I didn't always know them, but once I discovered them and started creating them, just everything in my life has just changed. Trust me, I am the poster child for falling into all of the unconscious traps that are possible. And so simple shifts have changed my life. And I hope that they have contributed something to yours. So as we're getting rolling, I want to give an immediate shout out to my teacher. Her name is Dr. Nadia Zeksambayeva, and I think that you guys have heard about her a lot because she is the reason that Simple Shifts for Uncertain Times even launched. I went to her reinvention summit probably 7 weeks ago, and it was transformational. It was life changing for me. And so with all of the uncertainty, that was the word, with all of the uncertainty and everything that was happening when COVID-19 first hit our shores, all I could think of was, what could I do? How could I support the conversation that's happening here? Um, and so that's how Simple Shifts for Uncertain Times was born. I was just sort of finding my way in a very uncertain time. I didn't know the how, I didn't know the why, I didn't know the what, but I certainly knew the why, which is I can help people move forward. And that's what we've done. Now, if you've been on here more than once with me, that it takes a little while for for the comments to show up. Yeah, there you are. Hi, Margaret. There you are. So we're here, we're going. And so, Dr. Nadia, I just want to thank you right up front because this would have never happened without you. So now, 6 weeks later, I start next week into her Certified Reinvention Practitioner course that starts next week. It's a 7-week course. So, wow. And reinvention is absolutely what we are all up to move forward in a crisis. So the second person I want to give a shout out to, besides Margaret, who is always here, always first, always here, I want to give a shout out to my colleague, my reinvention colleague in South Africa. His name is Gary Graham, and he gave me some distinctions yesterday that really helped me to create Simple Shift number 3 on this session. So whether you are joining us live or whether you're thinking about this in the replay, I want you to please just take a moment and think about, what does uncertainty mean to you? What has uncertainty been like for you? What is it about uncertainty that makes us feel so like not happy about it? So I know that there's a 20-second lag, so I'll just keep on going. The thing that is so fun is when I first started this 6 weeks ago, I was really uncertain about Facebook, about how Facebook would work, about how I could do it. I'm a trainer by skill and by inclination, and one of the things that I love the most is to be in a classroom where I can see your faces. I can see how what I'm saying or what I'm talking about is hitting. I can see your reaction. I can answer your questions on the spot. So the thing that really I've had to address with this Facebook Live is the uncertainty of, is anybody there? Does anybody hear me? Does it matter? And for those of us who love training, I think part of our heart is that we really want what we've got to share to matter. So here's what you've taught me over the last 6 weeks. It does matter. Whether I can see you or not, it matters. Hi, Susan, there you are. Whether I can see you, it matters. Whether you watch it with us live or whether you watch it on a replay, of course it matters. And so, what I have taken from this 6 weeks of training, it's also been a training for me. Thank you, Susan. She says it matters. I appreciate that. Um, I trust now that it matters. I can blindly go into a Facebook Live session for 30 minutes and trust that I'm connected with you, that you're connected with me, that what we are doing here matters, whether it is in this moment or a couple of weeks from now or a couple of years from now. What I know is that we are all up to something really big. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Dr. Nadia, for being the catalyst for this to even exist. Thank you, Gary. And you'll see at Simple Shift number 3 where Gary showed up. It was really awesome. So today is a little bit different. We are talking about something that most folks don't really want to talk about it. Okay, guess what? I got a slider now. I can say hi to people. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Kristen. Oh my goodness, Kristen, how are you? Thank you. Wonderful to see you here. So now I've got my slider and I can see when people show up. So yes, we've got a crowd of fabulous women here. So this is about uncertainty. It's not something that people really talk about, but it was the catalyst for us to start this conversation. And it was the catalyst for us to start about the concept of reorienting. And if you might remember in the very beginning, we were talking about those people who really love it when somebody drops them off in the middle of a forest or someplace where they've never been before. They have a map they have just gotten, they've never seen before, and they just love to find their way out. Like, most of us don't even get that. What we really like is we like to know where we are. We like to know who we're with. We like to be very certain about things because it makes us feel comfortable. That's our cultural construct, that we are certain. We love to know. We are trained as children that asking questions is what little kids, like babies, ask questions. You know, if you're a big person and you're in school and you know stuff, then you are the one that knows. You're not the question asker. Well, COVID-19 has made us a society of question askers, and it doesn't feel comfortable to us. And so that's why this session is to kind of unpack some of those things and show us where the unconscious traps that are true for us in our first gear, they are always right, always true, just for us on everyone's favorite, My Little Planet Me. And so how would we know otherwise if we weren't in conversation with other people who are doing something else? Which is why the Reinvention Society is just so life-changing for me, because I get to be in a tribe of international folks around the world, every continent, so many countries, people I will never probably meet in real life, but who are as close to me as you are right now. And reinvention is what we are each given the opportunity to do by COVID-19. If we didn't know it before, Dr. Nadia has been doing this work about 5 or 6 years specifically, and 25 or 30 years for her career. And yeah, so if I leave you with one little tiny thought of reinvention, one little tiny moment of maybe reinvention is something I should think about, then I will feel like I have committed something amazing, because that's what was committed for me. So, questions, comments, anytime you want to say anything, you just roll it in. I stop for questions, I stop for comments. But let's get to the handout. Now, some of you have the handout, and if you look, Chuck has posted it. So let's just get started with the very beginning. So here for 6 weeks, we've been doing a number of things. You know about simple shifts. You know about unconscious traps. You understand that we have 3 sensory channels, and when things are working great for us, all 3 of them work. And when things aren't working so well for us, when we're stressed or overwhelmed, one of them drops out. So when we're uncertain, our 3rd channel drops out. So the first simple shift is to address the unconscious trap of mistaking certainty for an action you can take in the present. Who knew? Because It's another version of the primary unconscious trap, which is stuck in first gear. And if you remember, first gear is planet me, your world, and it makes sense to you, although there is no other indication that it makes sense anywhere else. So that unconscious trap, that certainty is something that you can use for right now, there's no such thing. The simple shift is to understand that certainty is a judgment made from third gear about something that happened in the past. So, certainly, we've had 6 weeks together. Certainly, there was an election. Certainly, there have been 45 occupants of the White House. We're certain about that. Certainty in first gear, which is in the present moment, certainty in the present moment is not accurate. And even when it is close to accurate, it's just an approximation. So the unconscious trap is thinking that certainty is something that we can actually have. We're all walking around in America, in white, privileged America, thinking that we're certain. There's at least one important issue in the news right now of someone who was certain that he could run in his neighborhood and get home safely. And he did not. And there were people who were certain that they could stop him. So what I'd like to be certain about is that in this country, we can only be certain in hindsight that we have done everything that we can to reinvent ourselves as a country that really is true to all its citizens. Every single person here is free and safe, and we're certain about that. I think that's going to take some hindsight. So that's the first one. There's no such thing as certainty in the present. It simply doesn't exist. It's a construct that we have been taught is true and has often been true because of our privilege, and is no longer the truth. So the second unconscious trap is wishing for that certainty that we used to have. It used to be our birthright pre-COVID-19. I mean, we want to go back to that. That's an unconscious trap. It's a totally normal, totally human unconscious trap, and it's not going to get us very far. And so what I want to invite you to consider is that the simple shift here is to understand that your belief, our belief in certainty actually keeps us from learning. Because when you're certain, then you are where you are and you don't have to move, and it's just like your planet me and always true, always right, not just for your own little planet and not for what's happening in the world. And so that always brings me to something that I used to love to do when I was training trainers, and that is something called I used to call it the learning ladder. And so it looks like this in your handout. And so you can see it sort of looks like a ladder, and there's 4 pieces of it, and they might not be as clear to you looking at the screen as they will be in your hand. So I'm just going to talk you through it. So basically, we start at the bottom of the reason it's a ladder is because you start at the bottom. You can't start at the top. You have to start at the bottom and crawl up or climb up. And so at the very bottom of the ladder is everyone's, at least in my classes, favorite part, which is called blissful ignorance. And blissful ignorance means you don't know what you don't know, and it's not a problem for you because you don't know what you don't know. And it's a happy place. Everyone loves that place. So when you get to the next piece of the ladder, that is the place of when I was training trainers, this is where everybody hates to be. So we're going to skip that for a second, and we're going to go to the next layer. Next layer is you're an expert about something, and that is where you're certain. You are certain that you know stuff, you're a professional, you've been trained, you have a job, you have, whatever you have, and you're certain that you know some things. This is who we were trained to be in our schooling in the 20th century and in the early 21st century. And this is where we got to understand that certainty is a thing, because we had it. The next level, the highest level of the ladder, is the certainty that you have mastered something. You're the master of something, and you've forgotten more than anybody else could possibly know. And you are certain about it. And we like that. That's a really happy place. Now, remember that second place that people don't really like to go? I used to call that the training zone because I was a trainer and we were in a training class and I was training trainers. Here's the training zone. And in the training zone, this is where you know what you don't know. And when you know what you don't know, this is the place where you feel stupid. And this is the place that nobody wants to be in, especially trained professionals. We like to be certain about things. We like to know, and we do not like to not know. We do not like to be uncertain. And we do not like to be shown up as knowing less than we need to know in the moment. It's a painful place for us. And so, what I used to teach folks is you can't get to expert or mastery without going through the training zone. So, let's just get on with it. Well, what I've come to understand is that that is the unconscious trap version. That's the old world that doesn't exist anymore. So, there's a new version of what I call the learning ladder. And that is there's always going to be blissful ignorance. It's always going to be everybody's favorite part because it's fun and you don't know what you don't know. And the world is changing so quickly, there will always be things that you don't know. And so it's blissful, it's fun, count on it, and it's going to expand. The second level that used to be the training zone that nobody wanted to go to because they didn't want to feel stupid, this is now called, in the simple shift version, this is now called the learning zone. And this is the place where you understand that you know that you don't know everything and you're ready to explore. What do I need to know now? How can I expand? How can I extend myself to discover what I need to know? Well, the exciting part of that is that you get to the next level, which used to be expert, but now is the level of possibility. And that is you're continually seeking to expand what you know. It's kind of like if you remember in one of our earlier sessions, we were talking about energy levels. In the previous version, when you don't know and you're in the training zone, it's like, oh, again, I don't know again, level one, or okay, this is not fair. I should know. Why don't I know? Whose butt do I need to kick? That's the protective energy that wants to keep us certain. But we don't have that when we get to expansive energy. It's all possibility. In the learning zone, you're thinking, okay, well, what's my part in this? What's one thing I could do? Remember buckets 1, 2, and 3? This is a bucket number 3, opportunity. It's like, what can I do right now to move the needle for myself? Or as my sports fans, friends say, how can I move the ball down the field? And that takes you to the next level, which is possibility. You used to be an expert, but you're never going to be an expert anymore because things are changing so quickly. So now you're standing at possibility. What is possible now because of what I've learned, and how can I use it? What else can I do with it? And that leads you to the highest level of possibility. What if this is perfect in the energy level sense? What if this is perfect? What if I have unlimited cosmic power? And I say this with great humility because we do not all feel that we have unlimited cosmic power. And the world has shown us that we do not have unlimited cosmic power. And I will invite you to consider the possibility that all of us believing that anything is possible, equality and love and peace and grace is possible, then that sends us out to look for how we can be a part of making that happen. We know the world is changing it feels like every hour right now. And if we understand that there are ways we can engage with the change, then we will be part of making the changes happen that we want to happen. So there's a new learning ladder, and that is the learning zone is a place where anything is possible because you are ready to see that you don't know everything, that you can't know everything, and that being certain will never serve you and never move you forward. That opens you up to possibility. And when you open up to possibility, amazing things will happen. I promise you. I just had an incident this week. This week when I didn't know. I knew my what, but I didn't know. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know. I really didn't even know why I was doing it. I just knew I had to do it. And what I found 24 hours later was that it was the doorway into my future. Absolutely the doorway into my future. And I was not certain at the time when I started it. So I'm not certain what's going to happen now, but I'm also clear that 24 hours of making a decision that you know you have to make and moving forward in a way that you are blind to feels so different than the fear you feel when you're not certain and you don't think you can go. So that's what I would invite you to consider for that. So that leaves us with the very third unconscious trap. And thank you, Gary Graham in South Africa, for giving me the insight to how to name this simple shift, how to work with this simple shift. So there are those folks on the planet, and I have been one of them, who really fall into this unconscious trap of wanting certainty to be our home base. We want things to go back to the way they were. This is well, I'll reserve that. I started to go somewhere, and I'm not going to go there because I'm certain it's not the right thing to do. So when we are seeking certainty, we are seeking our way of life, our version of reality, and we want it to be the truth. That's an unconscious trap that sort of leaves us in the level 1 and level 2 energy levels of, you know what, it's not okay what's happening around me. All these changes around me are not what I want to see. And all these people who think that they have their possibilities, this is not okay because I don't know how to live in that. There's lots of good folks on this planet who feel like that right now. Their whole world has been turned upside down in ways that are different for everybody. So the unconscious trap is that we can go back. We can be certain the way we used to be certain. And so here's Gary's contribution to the simple shifts, and that is when we seek clarity instead of certainty, we change our world. Now we can seek clarity in third gear because you remember third gear is when you step out of yourself, you step out of the first gear of planet me, and you step into the widest possible perspective to see the forest for the trees. What are all the things that are out there that I can't see in first gear? Because I can only see this much in first gear. I can see this much in second gear because I'm looking at you. But in third gear, I can see this much. And clarity requires third gear. So when anything's possible, this is the home of reinvention. This is the home of anything's possible. And we can reinvent our life in ways that would absolutely astonish us. 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, I had no idea that what I am creating right now in my world was possible. I just had a conversation with someone this morning. Lovely guy. I met him in a training about 8 weeks ago, and he is inviting me to speak to a group of his interns in India. I've never spoken to a group of people in India before. Now, I'm not going to India because nobody's traveling. I'm going to do a Zoom call to India, but OMG, this is reinvention. Like, here's Maya speaking to a group of wonderful people she's never met in India. I could never have imagined that 2 months ago. And because of the work I'm doing and because of the possibilities that are there, it's changing my life. And of course, I always want to ask you, because it'd be just like me to ask you. So what possibilities would you like to see in your life? Now that you understand that reinvention is a choice, you make that choice in first gear because it's the only gear in which you can act. But you have to kind of see the possibilities from third. So what are some things that, as we are wrapping up our last 6 or 7 minutes with each other, what are some things you'd like to see that you'd like to reinvent or be open to the possibility of? And knowing that there's a 20-second lapse, I will just keep talking because that's what I've been trained to do here on Facebook. So, wow. Certainty is not as useful as clarity. What I love about that is that clarity means you can see right here, right now, what's available. And you make the best choice possible in this moment, and you trust that the choices that you're making in this moment are the best choice you could make. Even if you look back at them and say to yourself, oh, I wish I would have. One of the really great insights I got from Bruce Schneider, who is the guy who created my recent coaching school, the Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. And one of the things they had us do in class was, okay, who in here has ever had a regret? So everybody put their hand up. And so, okay, so what did you regret? Well, I wish I would have, whatever. And so then they take you through a series of questions. So in that moment, at that time, wait, we are pausing. Kristen, thank you so much. I'd love to be open to discovering a career path I'm passionate about, something truly that fills me up. Well, Kristen, I know the career paths you've been on so far and how amazing you've been on the career paths you've been on so far. And with your master's degree and with your passion for people, I have no doubt that will absolutely be true. And I would love to have an offline conversation with you about all that because I'm joining you in the master's degrees, folks. You don't know that yet, but yeah. So here's my question: would you love to be open to discovering? Because I think you're already open right now. Are you open to discovering it? Because you know what? My experience of you is that you're one of those people who is wide open to possibility. And so what I'm wishing for you is something that truly fills you up. And I'd love to have that conversation with you offline. So thank you. Thanks for answering that question. So the piece about certainty and clarity is in the moment when you truly look in third gear and you look at everything and you see all the opportunities and all the choices you have in front of you. Sometimes the choices that are coming for you are dependent on the actions that you take now. And sometimes the actions that you have in front of you don't seem like the best. Like you've got two choices and they both seem awful. I had that this week. I had two choices and they both seemed awful. And one of the things I found is that I had to pick the choice that was the best for me in that moment and trust that it would lead me to something else. And that's exactly what happened. And when you look at the things that you wish you hadn't done, but if you look at them 5 years later or 10 years later, you realize if you hadn't done that thing right there, you never would get to the thing that you're in right now. That's really powerful. So Kristen, to speak to that, possibility, there's probably something right in front of you right now that requires that you take a step that isn't the best step, isn't the perfect step, but is a step that will move you forward. So I'm going to trust you that you're going to do that well. So we are at almost less than 2 minutes left. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. And for those of you who are watching me on the replay, thank you so much. For my reinvention colleagues, thank you so much. And for everyone, this is our last of 6 sessions. What I'll be doing is reinventing how Facebook can look in the future. I'll be reaching out to all of you who have been on these calls. Susan, step outside my world of certainty and explore additional different opportunities. Wow, Susan, whopping high 10. That's a huge, huge step. Thank you so much for being on this call, darling. Yeah. And you have every possibility of doing that. I know who you are and I know what you're capable of, and you're that person. Exactly what you said, it already exists. So I'll be reaching out to you guys. I'll be asking you for, what's next? What do you want to see next? Should we do this again? Is 6 enough? And all the videos are going to be on simple shifts for uncertain times. All the videos and all the handouts will be in one place. So my final wish is that you share this with everybody you know, that you get the word out that there are simple shifts for uncertain times, that you get the word out that there are other ways of being that are a lot more resourceful and a lot more helpful. Because what I understand from my colleagues around the world is that this kind of pandemic is not the last one. This kind of disorientation is not the last one. So reinvention is the idea that you can ride chaos like a surfer rides the waves in the ocean. And that what if we could go through all the things we're going through and not only survive, but thrive? So that is my commitment for the rest of my life as the chief reinvention officer of my company and still the chief inspirator of my company. But what I know is possible is that we can ride through this. And life as we know it will never be like that again. And life as we are about to come to know it is kind of like leaving Kansas for Oz, should we choose to make it that way. So thank you with all my heart for joining me. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you on the other side somewhere. And you know where to find me. And we can talk on Facebook, even if we don't have anything else. We can talk to each other on IM. All right, my darlings. Thank you. God bless you. Namaste.